I want to thank y'all for having me this morning. Want to mention, I'll give my quick PSA on coronavirus, and then we'll move along. I want to say, that I know that this is, I've got some good news and some rosy numbers here to provide you all, and that's a great thing. But I also want to mention that I know that this virus and this pandemic has not affected everyone equally. And I know that there are still some out there struggling, whether it's financially or maybe they've had a family member affected by COVID. Maybe they've lost a family member. And I want to, provide my quick PSA on that. If you need help from as far as business help, financial help, anything like that, I know that Randy and his team would love for you to reach out. We've got Dale Badgett's on the call this morning. He would be happy to have you reach out to him with the Small Business Center. And of course, the town of Pilot Mountain. If there's anything we can do, we can always direct you to other services. We'd love to do that. We want everybody to be safe. And if you need, mental care or self-care, of course, get that too. I think it's really important right now, and everybody needs to realize that this pandemic has affected them in some way, whether they realize it or not. So that's my spiel on that. And now I'll move on to some of the things that we did. The last time I spoke to the chamber in person was at that luncheon, but we actually had one of these at the beginning of the pandemic. I want to say back maybe toward the end of March, maybe April. And at that time, we're still dealing with it, but we know a little more about, how things are going to go as far as what we can do safely. We know more about face coverings and that sort of thing. And since that time, back then we were still working on our budget or just completed the budget, depending on what time that last meeting was. But it was recommended to us that the town prepare for as much as an 11% decrease in sales taxes. And so when we went to our budget session, we went into it being extra cautious. So we went with a 14% decrease is what we assumed. So the really good news from all that is that in the past quarter, we've had actually a 5% bump year over year in sales tax revenues. So while we would like to have seen more growth, it's always good to see growth while we're dealing with these sort of background factors that we're contending with. And I want to mention really quickly our staff here with the town of Pilot Mountain. They've helped us maintain such consistency as far as the services that the town offers. I looked around during this. I know that the city of Winston-Salem stopped bulk item pickup. I think they stopped brush pickup for a while. And there were other towns that took other measures. Our staff, when we prepared our budget, we weren't able to even include our normal 2% cost of living adjustment like we normally do each year. And credit to our staff, they understood what we were dealing with, and we didn't hear a single complaint about the finances of this situation. So I got to give a lot of credit to them. They worked through this pandemic, and with these new numbers coming in, we'd like to go back and hopefully the board will have an opportunity to go back and look at those numbers and do something to show our appreciation for our great staff because they've really provided a lot of consistency for our citizens. Like Randy mentioned, we've worked with our local businesses to provide services throughout COVID. I know that I saw Betsy Tarns on the call this morning with Extreme Marketing. I know they sort of switched things up and began manufacturing the plastic shields you see everywhere. I know I think they do some face masks too and some other PPE, and they've really done a great job with all of that. We've also worked with Gitman Brothers to distribute these Pilot Strong masks. Some folks don't know that we have a luxurious tie factory here in the town of Pilot Mountain, and they make handmade ties. And of course, masks don't have the same price point as a nice tie would, but they've been working with us to manufacture ties for the town. Masks for the town, and that's been really well received. We've distributed over 1,000 masks, and I've been glad to see that there's been quite a bit of compliance for mask wearing. When I've visited downtown, I've seen people wearing their face coverings. And at the beginning of that recommendation, I received a lot of calls and messages from folks who were elderly or immunocompromised, and they were very concerned about shopping. And in the last couple of weeks, I've actually received calls and emails that have said the opposite, that there were folks that were really glad to be able to go out and feel comfortable shopping in the downtown. And I'm really glad to see that. So I want to give credit to our business owners who have stepped up in that regard. Under the Pilot Strong heading, we've also worked to promote our local businesses. We've promoted our restaurants through a passport program earlier in the year when everybody was having to just do to-go orders. Since that time, I've been by for lunch at the Mexican restaurant in town, and they've been hopping. I know that the Tilted Ladder is now doing lunch service, so everything's picking up there as well. Glad to see that. So we've called upon our citizens here to go out to those local businesses, do so safely, but support them. And everything I've heard, they've done a really great job. I've been to several businesses who have told me that despite not having the events like we normally have, they've seen a lot of foot traffic, and some of those businesses have even had more business year over year. And of course, the sales tax numbers bear that out. So that's really been great to see. I think as a result of the preparedness we've tried to have, the dip has been definitely there as far as economic impact, but we've seen a better recovery as a result of our efforts. I think that with the budget being ahead of where it's supposed to be now, with it being up 5% year over year, we're looking at about a $50,000 surplus so far, which is always great to have in a town budget. I don't think, since I've started as mayor, we've ever had a surplus. We've been right where we expected to be. So it's great to see that growth during all this. During this time, I think it's important that we have a sort of cautious optimism. The COVID numbers are climbing right now, so we've got to make sure we stay vigilant. There's no reason right now to believe that there's going to be another shutdown. We know better how to prevent spread and that sort of thing. So we're cautiously optimistic at this time. Behind the scenes, what a lot of people haven't seen is the work that we've done to try to get some of our infrastructure projects shovel ready. So before all this started, we had several projects we're working on. We're working on a water interconnect with the city of Mount Airy. And that's been a really, that one's moved along quite a lot since then. We have acquired enough easements now to get closer and closer to that project becoming reality and going out to bid next year. So we're hopeful that will be done. And we also look at that project not only as something that will help secure our economic future as far as our infrastructure costs and controlling costs, but also something that's going to be a boost for the county and local economy around us, because as we run water to the city of Mount Airy, that'll allow us the opportunity to connect more places along Cook School Road, places where we could see a lot of development in coming years. So the other thing I wanted to talk about this morning was some upcoming events, because it kind of seemed like for a while things were really slow as far as public events go. We were working behind the scenes on some things, but we're really excited. At our last meeting, I had to say, wow, it's just picked up all of a sudden. I know last week we had the Pilot Mountain Civic Club. They had a drive-in movie, and that certainly contributed to the busyness downtown. And we've got a few other events coming up now that we've worked to make safer and make them compatible with the time that we're living in right now. So coming up, we've got a Monster Mash 5K and Fun Run. That's going to be on Saturday, October 31st. So on Halloween, we're going to have a fun run that morning, and that starts at 8:30 a.m. We've got a farmer's market that happens monthly now as well. That's downtown as well, and that's 8 a.m. to noon. November 14th is the next one. And then we've opened several new businesses downtown. We don't often take a step back to look at things. We kind of keep our head down and keep working. But I know Emily and I were shopping downtown last week or this past weekend, and we looked back and we said, wow, there are entire blocks here that have made significant progress in the past year or two. I know we have a ribbon cutting coming up for Indulge Soapery, which is kind of like a Bath and Body Works type of store. But they're already open and running. But we're going to have a grand opening for them on November 11th. So everyone from the chamber come out to that and the Pilot Business Council. We opened Elite Discounted Surplus a few weeks ago, which is an appliance store, and they have some other odds and ends, and it's a great little store if you haven't checked it out yet. We've got, I know we opened, did a grand opening for Propel Pediatric Care, which is a business that does therapy for children, physical therapy, speech therapy, that sort of thing. So we're really excited to have them in our community as well. And I know I'm kind of all over the place this morning, but there's a lot going on. The other thing I want to mention while I'm mentioning events is I saw that Ann Anderson is on the call this morning, and she and I have been working here recently to develop a license plate for Pilot Mountain State Park. So this license plate will feature a logo for the mountain, and it's $30 for the vanity plate, and $20 of that each time you renew it will go toward the state park through the Friends of Sourtown Mountain group, so that they can continue to provide the excellent services that they provide at our local park, conservation, and that sort of thing. So we're really excited. That could be a really nice funding source for them for years to come. I know the response to that so far has been positive. And once we kind of get over this hurdle of the initial 300 plates, and you can pick up the application to get one of those plates at Town Hall and hand off your $30 check for one of those. And we're hoping to get that passed by the state legislature next year once we have the pre-order for those 300 plates. And then from then on, you'll be able to go to the DMV website and pick up a Pilot Mountain license plate. So we think that's pretty neat. And so if you're interested in one of those, be sure to head by Town Hall, or I think there's a couple of stores here in town as well that have the applications and are taking the applications as well. So stop by and get one of those. The other another major infrastructure project we have going on here in town is on some of our streets here in Pilot Mountain. You could see where actually the road was starting to collapse in the middle, and we learned that was due to the old terracotta pipe underneath the street actually starting to cave, and so that infrastructure has needed to be replaced for quite a while. The most urgent one was on Sunset Drive, if you're familiar with that neighborhood in our town, but also coming down toward my neighborhood down in Lynchburg Road. In that area, a lot of lines and things like that needed to be replaced. So we are starting that project. Actually, there's several hundred feet of line outside of my house at the moment. I live down the street from Public Works, our Public Works depot. So they are staging a lot of that equipment now. And I know that's an inconvenience for a lot of people right now, but it's very important that we get that infrastructure taken care of. A lot of deferred infrastructure projects and maintenance that we're getting to now. And I know that's not the most exciting thing in the world to be replacing sewer line, but it's essential. And the kind of work we're doing right now, that's a over $2 million project. We're replacing those lines and some pump stations. To give you a kind of an idea of what the town's dealing with as far as our infrastructure goes. When the town was being expanding, I'll say, while Armtex was here